was in middle school, I had what I would call an unhealthy obsession with celebrity Will Smith. Now back then, he wasn't the super movie star that he is today, but he had his own TV show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that I watched every week, and he even had his own music career. I was such a fan that I bought all of his albums, including the fourth one, Home Base. I sat in my room and memorized every single song on that album. I tried to talk like Will Smith, and unfortunately, I tried to dance like him. And let's just say that did not go very well. But I was such a follower of Will Smith. I was more than just a typical fan. I was in. And this week, we're launching a brand new series called ImIn, where we'll take a look at what crazy celebrity obsessions might have to do with Jesus.
As we'll see in this series, there were 4 people who met Jesus, got a little bit obsessed and said, "I'm in." And I'm not talking about following Jesus on Snapchat or Instagram or subscribing to his YouTube channel. I'm talking about 4 people who said, "I'm in for whatever you say and whatever you have for me, Jesus. I'm in with my life, my struggles, my choices, and even with my questions. I'm in." Because here's what's so interesting about these 4 people. They all probably had their own reasons to not follow Jesus, but they still did.
If we were to take a survey of our level of interest and commitment in following Jesus, I think we'd all fall into a few different spots. Some of you probably said, "I'm in" to following Jesus way back in kindergarten, and today you have a really strong faith in who Jesus is and what that means for your life. You'd still say, "Yeah, I'm in." And that's so great.
But I also know that some of us aren't exactly sure why following Jesus even matters. Maybe for you, following Jesus is just that boring thing you hear about on Sundays when you get dragged to church. Maybe you don't understand how this Jesus guy from thousands of years ago has any relevance to your life at all. Maybe saying "I'm in" to Jesus doesn't seem like it would matter or make a difference whatsoever. I get it. I've been there.
But whatever you think about this whole following Jesus thing right now, I think we've all got a lot to learn about what being in for Jesus really looks like. So for the next few weeks, we're going to look at the lives of these 4 people who decided to be in with Jesus. Because there's a lot to learn, I think, from the way they chose to follow Jesus.
Like Mary Magdalene, there are a few different Marys mentioned in the Bible, so let me tell you about this one. Mary Magdalene first shows up in Luke chapter 8. And okay, her last name is not actually Magdalene. I know that's kind of weird. Magdalene is just the name of the place where she was from, because that's how people used to refer to themselves back then. Here, try it. Turn to the person next to you and say your first name, and then the city where you were born.
Okay, back to Mary from Magdalene. After this, Jesus traveled about from one town and village to another, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. The 12 were with him, and also some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Mary, called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had come out, Joanna, the wife of Chuza, the manager of Herod's household, Susanna, and many others. These women were helping to support them out of their own means.
Did you catch that description? 7 demons. That's pretty crazy. But we'll save those details for another day. What I want you to notice right now is that she had suffered from something really difficult and painful and intense, but Jesus healed her. That's the point. She was hurting, but Jesus healed her.
And do you see what she did in response? Mary, along with other women who Jesus had healed, supported Jesus. She helped him on his mission. She served him. She came alongside him and followed him. She gave to Jesus from what she had, out of gratitude and love for what he had done for her. She was in, because after all, she suffered, and Jesus healed her.
Now Mary's commitment to Jesus only continued from there. Flash forward to when Jesus died on the cross. We see in Mark chapter 14, verse 50, that after Jesus was arrested, Jesus' followers and friends deserted him. They fled, but not Mary. In Jesus' darkest day and deepest pain, Mary was there. Some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger and of Joseph, and Salome.
Mary stood by Jesus' side even as he was dying. Even though it was dangerous, even though most of Jesus' followers and friends had left, Mary stayed because when Mary said, "I'm in," she didn't mean she'd only be in when things were good. For Mary, "I'm in" meant in even when things were bad, because that's what Jesus had done for her. She stayed in even when Jesus was beaten and crucified and killed and buried. Even then, she was still in.
After Jesus died on the cross and his body was buried in a nearby tomb, Mary was in then too. We read in Matthew 28 that Mary visited Jesus' tomb to mourn. But when she arrived, something very, very unexpected happened. Jesus showed up alive, and Mary was one of the first people to witness his resurrection. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Mary Magdalene, a woman who had once suffered so much, but was rescued from her pain by Jesus, once again finding freedom for her pain and grief because Jesus was alive again.
Do you know what I see when I look at Mary Magdalene? I see someone who first met Jesus in the middle of her brokenness and in her mess. When Mary met Jesus, she knew she needed him. She needed Jesus to rescue her from her hurt, her pain, and her suffering. Now, you're probably not suffering exactly like Mary and her 7 demons, but I'm guessing you know what it's like to experience some messy, painful stuff. Life gets hard for all of us eventually, and eventually we all mess up big time. But when we're in pain or in need, do you know what I love about Jesus? We never have to hide from him. Mary Magdalene said she was in with Jesus because when she had some serious stuff going on, Jesus first met her right there in the middle of her mess. And he wants to do the same for you too. You don't have to hide your pain or your mess or your brokenness from Jesus. In fact, it's better if you don't, because when you bring it to him, he can heal it.
That's where being in with Jesus begins. Because whether you need to be healed or helped or forgiven, you need him. You need his healing, you need his help, you need his forgiveness, and that's what Mary Magdalene's life shows us. When you're in with Jesus, you say yes to your need for him.
So, what does that look like for you? Where are you in need? What feels broken in your life? Do you believe, like Mary Magdalene, that if you allow Jesus to step into your mess, that it could actually bring you closer to him? That by leaning into Jesus and saying, I'm in, you could actually find peace and joy and forgiveness. It happened for Mary, and it can happen for you.
So go ahead, tell him you're in. Don't hide your brokenness or your weakness or your mess from God. Say yes to your need for Jesus, because remember, when you're in with Jesus, you say yes to your need for him.